Developed by Z-Axis and published by Activision, X3 the official game made its way onto the PlayStation 2 in May of 2006 to coincide with the release of the third installment in Fox's X-Men trilogy, X-Men: The Last Stand. Unlike many other movie-licensed superhero games that came out around that time, its story isn't based on that of its film counterpart, but instead takes place between the events of the second and third movies, acting as a form of supplementary material, an X-Men 2.5, so to speak. Some elements from X2 do carry over. There are references to the death of Jean Grey, and a few of the earlier missions in the game have you exploring the remains of William Stryker's mutant testing facility at Alkali Lake. But as the X-Men are there, retrieving stolen Cerebro parts Stryker had used to create his Dark Cerebro in the film that was capable of killing every mutant on Earth using Charles Xavier's telepathic abilities, they uncover the Sentinel program, which was another one of Colonel Stryker's plans to eliminate mutant kind. I guess it was his contingency if Dark Cerebro failed. The Sentinels were briefly hinted at in X3 during the Danger Room sequence at the beginning of the film, but we didn't get to see them fully realized in the Fox movies until X-Men: Days of Future Past in 2014, and by then, the backstory surrounding their creation was completely different, having them built by weapons designer Bolivar Trask, much like in the comics, and not William Stryker as depicted in the game. Regardless, I still find it really interesting that the game introduces the Sentinels, one of my favorite X-Men villains, and finds a way to incorporate them effectively into the story of that original trilogy, and have it all make sense. Master Mold, the giant portable Sentinel factory, also appears in the game, and acts as the primary antagonist. The other noteworthy aspect of X3's story centers around Nightcrawler. It explains why he was absent from the Last Stand film. Kurt had been haunted by visions of William Stryker's mutant son, Jason, who he was not able to save at the end of X2 when the dam burst. He quit the X-Men because his peaceful nature clashed with the violence associated with being an X-Man. Now, of course, in real life, there was stuff going on behind the scenes, with changes in directors between X2 and X3, which is why some characters had been cut and other new ones brought in. Alan Cumming, who played Nightcrawler, also found the whole experience working on X2 to be exhausting and abusive, and didn't want to return for the sequel, but I'm glad the game provided us with some closure surrounding his character, narratively, because he had been one of the stronger elements from X2, in my opinion. I loved Alan Cumming's portrayal of Nightcrawler. X3, the official game, allows you to play as 3 different X-Men: Wolverine, Nightcrawler, and Iceman. Wolverine's levels are combat-heavy, and have you battling waves of military soldiers. His levels are easily the hardest of the 3 characters, because enemies will swarm you frequently, and drain your life bar pretty fast if you're not careful. The ones you really want to avoid are those guys with the electrified stabs. They have a long range with their combos, and sometimes you will take damage just by touching the ends of their stabs, even if they haven't attacked with them. It's annoying. I think the reason Wolverine's levels can be so challenging, especially on harder difficulties, is because his healing factor has been nerfed quite a bit in this game. He does heal from light wounds automatically, indicated by the small yellow meter in his health bar, but I never really find it to be fast enough. Major wounds take longer to heal, and can only be done so by pressing and holding the R2 button, but you have to be out of combat in order for the prompt to pop up, which usually doesn't last for very long, given the nature of his levels. On top of that, if you get attacked while you are healing, typically by enemy machine guns, it cancels out his healing factor, and you have to wait until you are out of combat again to activate it, and I can't tell you how frustrating this can be at times. It's why you end up dying as Wolverine more than the other 2 characters. Thankfully though, Logan does have a Fury meter, which fills up as you attack and are attacked, which, when activated, increases the damage you inflict and speeds up his healing factor. It can save you when you're in a pickle, but you can't always rely on it over your regular healing factor, so keep that in mind. Nightcrawler has a healing power as well, called a Shadow Aura, which functions the same way as Wolverine's, by holding down a button when out of combat, but at least with his, he turns invisible and can't be seen by enemies while in that state, so it's far less aggravating to use than Wolverine's. Nightcrawler is my favorite character to play as in X3. His levels focus on platforming and make use of his teleportation ability to walk along pipes, cling onto ceiling fixtures, and reach faraway ledges. When you start to master it, it can become extremely addictive, teleporting all over the place and avoiding enemy attacks. I also find his combat to be fun, for what it's worth. His combos incorporate a lot of acrobatic moves in them, and teleporting behind your enemies to deliver the finishing blow is very satisfying. Lastly, we have Iceman, and his levels consist of moving around on his ice slides that he forms in front of himself using his powers. You can speed up or slow down, but you are unable to stop completely. Some of his missions focus on racing to an end goal within a time limit while avoiding obstacles, and others have you destroying a set amount of enemies using your ice missiles, or putting out fires with your ice beam. To avoid taking damage from enemy projectiles, you can activate your Frost Shield, but it only stays on for a brief moment, meaning you have to time it just right for it to be truly effective. I think out of all three X-Men characters in this game, Iceman is probably my least favorite to play as. Because you are in constant motion, it can be a pain in the ass to line up your shots. If you slow down too much, end up striking an obstacle at too fast of speed, or, for instance, are hit by one of the stronger Sentinel lasers, you will fall off your ice slide and take quite a bit of damage. While Iceman's gameplay can be fun at first, and his levels are definitely more unique than what is found in the Wolverine and Nightcrawler ones, it can become really repetitive with what you're actually doing in them. You're either racing in one direction, dodging shit, or flying in circles trying to hit other shit. That's all there is, really. In all of the levels, there are 5 Sentinel tech pieces and 1 Weapon X file to collect, which unlock additional comic book-inspired costumes for each character, as well as their street clothes. Beating each level on different difficulties earns you a certain number of mutation bars, which allow you to upgrade your X-Men's abilities. All 3 of the separate X-Men campaigns have you go up against various Sentinel models, but the other iconic X-Men villains featured are unique to each hero. In Wolverine's levels, you face off with Lady Deathstrike, who somehow managed to survive their last encounter at the end of X2, when she was pumped full of adamantium. The game never addresses it. Same goes for Sabretooth, who was working alongside Magneto again, having survived his fall from the top of the Statue of Liberty in the original film from 2000. The coolest addition is the Silver Samurai, though, a comic-accurate one, unlike the version we eventually got in the Wolverine from 2013. Nightcrawler's levels have you battle Multiple Man, disarming bombs he had planted on a bridge, and in the earlier Iceman levels, you encounter Pyro, who is trying to cause a nuclear meltdown. You fight this giant fire dragon he creates, which is honestly one of the more memorable sequences from this entire game for me. X3, the official game, is pretty decent. I would add it to the list of better movie-licensed superhero games out there. It's got its problems, of course, mostly lying within its gameplay, but I think there are some interesting ideas explored with its story, co-written by Zach Penn and Chris Claremont, by the way, which ties up a few loose ends from that original trilogy of films. The slideshow cutscenes are a little on the cheap side, and do feel rushed, but the solid voice acting on the part of Hugh Jackman, Alan Cumming, Shawn Ashmore, Patrick Stewart, and Tyler Mane do elevate them a bit. The only real reason I would recommend you play this game is for Nightcrawler though. His gameplay can be enjoyable, and learning the why behind his absence from X-Men The Last Stand makes the whole experience worthwhile. If you've never played this game before, I'd say give it a try, it wouldn't hurt. There are far worse movie-licensed superhero games out there. I want to thank you all for watching my review of X3, the official game. I hope you got something out of it. Let me know your thoughts on the game down in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and bell icon to support the production of more content like this. You can also become a producer for my videos and nominate future game reviews over on patreon.com. I will see you all in the next one. Take care, stay safe, and always stay nerdy.